There it is.
You know that one.
Comic books, video games, anime, sci-fi. If you've been made fun of for it, we're probably gonna talk about it.
Come on, man. You know I only surf Transformers sites when there's girls around so they can see how cool I am.
Nerd Radio starts now.
Welcome to another week in Nerd Radio, wherever you...
Oh, no.
Not even...
Oh, no. That was a total...
Sure it was.
Kerfuffle.
Sure it was.
It was a Nerd Radio kerfuffle right out the top.
Al's already getting on my bad side. Welcome to another week in Nerd Radio,
I
wherever you
swore at you in German earlier.
Wherever you're getting your podcast, it's part of the BPOD Studios Network and all over your social media at Nerd Radio 101. My name is Chuck Bean. I am joined, as always, by the man who puts the screaming ice cream. James?
Oh, hello.
How you doing?
Making the ice cream scream. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And the man who puts the fun in funeral, Mr. Al Beck.
Did he get a book of these? He's got a book of these.
I did not know.
How far ahead did you work on these?
I may have thought of him while I was laying in bed last night.
Oh, he's thinking about us in bed.
He's having some fun, screaming in bed.
Yep.
And then thinking about going to his funeral.
I can't wait to find out what I put the black in.
I ain't going there. I'm not going there whatsoever. Not whatsoever. We are joined this week by Mr. Steve Black, also one of our compatriots over at 101 WRIF, and a huge Star Trek nerd.
Yeah, I'm in.
And that's one of the reasons why we had. It's funny because I usually have to set up when people are coming in and when what we're going to be talking about and stuff like that. Steve actually informed me when I saw him over the weekend that he was coming in.
Perfect.
That Al is getting
Take
a
the
little
bull by the horns.
Yeah,
Got to let him know.
he's getting a little big for his britches over there.
Yeah.
He's-
I think I started with, did Al tell you yet?
You did. Yes, you did. And I'm like, no, but that's
like
great.
I was demanding or
No.
anything.
Right. No, I always tell everyone in the building, I was like, it's open door policy at Nerd Radio, which is why, it's bit us in the ass a couple times. That's why the checkpoint guys keep walking in here.
It sure has, yeah.
But I always tell people, I was like, you want to come in and talk about some nerd stuff? This is where to do it.
Yes, well, there was a time, full disclosure, there was a time we were very desperate for content.
There was.
And now we just won't shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there was a time we're like, please, my God, like, you like Legos. Let's talk about it.
Ain't nothing wrong with liking Legos.
The Lego talk is probably pretty good if the person I'm thinking was involved.
No, and he'll be back. Let me tell you.
He better be back.
We've discussed it. He'll be back to show us some of his Lego stuff on Twitch. So that's going to be great. So.
Good. Yeah, no, this is one of those times, too, where, like, I did set up the guest with Steve because we're both the big Trekkies.
Yes.
And so, like, Picard obviously was big news, the premiere of the show. So I was like, well, Steve, you got to come in and talk about it. If nothing else, the premiere and the finale, we got to bookend it. And then, like, I didn't even think about the fact that, there might be something else going on. Like, we're supposed to have Erica in to talk Royal Rumble later.
Right.
So I'm just like, I'm booking guests with no idea what the hell's... Like, I don't even research topics. Like, I know what else is going on here.
You were like, look, we're going to talk about this thing, and I'm bringing backup.
Yes, exactly. Well, because I don't pay attention to anything, and I'm dumb and forget stuff. So I need Steve, who's smart and remembers things, to cover my ass. This is my show prep. I brought somebody else to do my job.
To do your homework for you. Fantastic.
Anyone else want to do their jobs today?
That's exactly what's going on.
The
in
most
particular.
perfect drop I've ever played on this entire thing.
All right.
Better at it, Al.
Yeah, well, let's
Oh, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here.
let's get right.
All right, I'm done.
I can wait.
Well, go ahead.
Let's get right into it. Star Trek Picard, the first episode on CBS All Access, came out last Thursday. And the funny thing is, knowing that the show was coming out on Thursday, I logged into CBS Access middle of the day. I think I told you about this. I logged in and saw that somebody was halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to just watch the whole thing and screw up wherever they were, figuring it was the one who was paying for CBS All Access.
Sure, yeah.
So I was like, I'll log in later. I saw you the next day, and you're like, no, I didn't watch it yet. I didn't watch it until later on in the night. So we started to play this game of like, who was watching at 3 p.m. on Thursday?
Yeah. That one might have been me, actually, but there were a couple options, yeah.
Right, for sure. But
now, when I logged in, Steve had already watched it.
Yeah.
And I looked, and I was like, oh, my God, Picard! And I was like, the play line, what the hell? I was like, oh, right. Yeah, but it was very confusing for a moment that, because Steve beat me to it.
So you guys are the big Trekkies. What do you think of the first episode of the new show?
First of all, how spoiler heavy are we going? Because the only thing sometimes we go spoiler heavy on movies and stuff, but CBS All Access, I feel like there's a lot of Trekkies that are maybe still on the fence. So I don't want to blow too much storyline.
So
Why don't we?
So there's no need for me to be here.
I don't know because I was
I don't
thinking.
need to remember anything if we're not going to talk about it.
Well, it's a good, fair point. So,
Spoiler alert.
so
Yeah,
spoiler alert.
We'll just put it out there that we will
I
be
did think
talking
we
about
should-
the content.
Yes, we should at least. I should have thought we should at least address it up front.
Yeah.
So people do know.
So if you haven't watched it, you haven't gotten the opportunity to watch it yet, you may want to just I don't know, fast forward about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
want anybody to find out that Picard's actually going to be a dad.
Right.
And the mother is an alien.
Well, you never know. That's more.
If that
of
was
a-
Captain Kirk,
I was
I
just
believe
gonna
it.
say yes. If it was Kirk,
That was not a real spoiler.
yeah,
At least I hope or don't think so.
I don't no, like the Hugh Jackman spoiler last week.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. 3 episodes in, I'm texting James, "F you!" An accidental spoiler.
Right.
No, I was happy with it.
Oh, yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Very happy, very excited for what comes next. But it was really cool because you've seen it as well, Chuck.
I have.
You did get around to eventually watching. So opening up with seeing the Enterprise D was very special because obviously, as we know in the Generations movie, that was the end of the D.
You finally found the end, huh? It's
when they-
that long.
When they crashed the D.
Yeah, they crashed the D. Yeah.
Right into the V.
But yeah,
Right
the,
into
the, the warp core goes critical and blows up the star drive, and the saucer section crashes on a planet. So seeing
That's a spoiler for an old ass movie.
for an old ass movie, I think the statute of limitations is up on that.
And,
Right.
And takes its time crashing into that planet.
it
too.
does.
That is a long
Yes.
film sequence.
And then of course they leave.
It's a big D.
it is a big D. That's a big ass D. And of course they leave the Nexus. We get to see it crash twice.
Yes.
I just watched Generations last night, actually. So that one's fresh. But there was a detail in the opening about that Steve remembered that I had forgotten, the music.
Right.
Oh, yeah. The sort of the opening song, if you will, is the song that Data sings in Nemesis.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And it really is only important because at the end, where they've tried to download Data into B4, who is one of the other androids, for those not totally following
Thank
along.
you. I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
you're
like,
looking at me like,
B4.
what the hell's a B4?
Is that like a BB-8?
Yeah. Well,
Is it like an R2-D2?
It is an artificial life form. So
yeah.
in a
Well,
way,
Nemesis spoiler: Data sacrifices himself to save Picard.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Well, statute of limitations once again is up.
So B4.
You don't even care about spoilers. Shut up.
B4 is a relative of Data, okay? And at first, it looks like there's no data transfer from Data to B4, and then at the end of Nemesis, he's humming that same song that Data had been singing, which he would have no knowledge of. And then the opening of this entire Star Trek Picard,
Yep.
the music they use, the music bed, as
Bing Crosby doing that song.
right, it's the same song. I'm
Right.
like, hey, all right. So right away, we are tying into extreme nerds.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to notice that unless you've seen a lot of Star Trek.
Right. Or maybe had just watched Nemesis the day before, like Steve did.
Yes.
So does this episode kind of pick up where all the movies and stuff left off? It's a
20 years
continuation?
after.
Okay.
Yeah, 20
Yeah.
years later,
So
which
that-
is how long
Well,
ago
that's cool that they
Nemesis
use that
came
song
out.
then to tie it all together.
Yes.
Yeah.
That way you know, okay, here's what we picked up last time.
Right.
20 years.
And then that opening sequence turns out to be a dream, but it's the
Right.
only time that we get to see Picard in a Starfleet uniform, which is particularly
Yeah.
cool. Because it opens and we're like, oh, yeah, he's in uniform. He's on the ship. This is awesome.
Yes, and another thing that was pointed out to me in another podcast is in that opening scene, it zooms in, you see the Enterprise D, and it goes through the transparent aluminum into 10 Forward, which is the popular bar on the Enterprise. And it's just Data and Picard. The rest of the room is empty, which is already sort of a...
It's the popular bar on the Enterprise.
It is. It is.
Is there like a non-popular
I'm
bar?
sure there's a
Is there more
seedy
than
one.
one
There's
bar?
got to be.
There's gotta be a
yeah.
seedy
Where's
one
the
somewhere.
dive bar of the Enterprise?
Right.
Yeah, right. They never show
what I
you
wanna
any of the other
drink.
bars, but there has to
That's
be
coming
more.
up in the new series that they're doing.
Yeah.
What is the cartoon series? that
Oh,
they're doing?
Lower Decks. Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It's something
Yeah.
serious that's coming?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There's
There's
a comedy coming out based on Star Trek,
Yeah.
and it's about the people you never see on the show. It's
Yeah.
called Lower Decks.
I love it. That's got my attention more so than
yeah.
Picard.
Right.
Guarantee you they're
Yeah.
going to a seedy bar somewhere on the
Yes.
ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. But already you kind of have a tip off that it's a dream because the rest of 10 Forward is deserted aside from Picard and Data. But also what was pointed out to me, Data is wearing the later DS9 / the later TNG
is.
movies uniform with the gray shoulders.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's wearing a uniform that they never wore on the Enterprise D. So it's definitely not a flashback or anything like
Right.
that. It's a little out of sorts.
That's cool. I didn't pick up that detail.
yeah. Neither had I. I was informed.
No.
I was just watching it going like, this is kind of like, there wasn't anything in the new Star Wars movie that really moved me, but like watching Picard buy time because he doesn't want the game to be over was just, it's kind of like, aw, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Well,
and Patrick Stewart can still act the crap out of just about anything, but it's crazy, and I think James would have already experienced this in Logan. You can tell he's old because his voice is a little weaker, and sometimes it makes me feel a little sad listening to him speak because of that. But I mean, it's still an acting clinic anytime that man's on screen.
Well, his voice never seems to waver at all when he's doing voices for Seth MacFarlane, like Family Guy, American Dad, or I think more so American Dad. He's one of the CIA agent leads.
Yeah.
And he voices that character. I've never noticed anything. I wonder if maybe that's part of his
It's
acting.
maybe it's multiple
that's his
takes.
acting ability there.
I didn't think he actually did the voice. I always assumed that was
No, it's
McFarlane.
actually
that's
him.
I thought it was
him.
McFarlane doing the
Yeah, no, I thought-
impersonation. Wow.
Yeah.
No,
once I saw his name in the credits, I was like, holy crap. They got
Right.
Sir Patrick Stewart
Yeah.
to voice a character who killed a hooker in a cartoon series. What is happening right now?
Well, he credits the cast of TNG because he said when he took that role as Captain Picard, he was
Next
very
Generation,
serious.
TNG's? Okay.
Yes, in the Next Generation, like he came from doing Shakespeare in the theater. And, all the other American actors are goofing around in between takes, and he, like, pulled them aside and was like, there are people here trying to work, and you're keeping them here late, and we need to be serious. And I think it was Jonathan Frakes that was basically like, you need to just calm down. You need to chill out,
We're
dude.
doing a show about intergalactic relations here, Mr. Stewart.
And so really it was the cast from TNG that sort of relaxed him a little bit, and he started having more fun with the process of acting rather than just being a super amazing actor all the time. And so he never would have done American Dad before TNG.
No,
Absolutely
no
not.
question.
Yeah, that blew my mind when I found that out.
That's one of the things that I found really interesting about even this first episode is the amount of special effects money that they have now for a Star Trek.
Very cinematic.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
the show
soundtrack especially. Yeah.
right, and it's I wonder. I'm a part-time Star Trek fan. Like I like Star Trek, but I don't know it the way you guys know it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the show was stronger when it had less to work with. And I'm not saying that this was bad. I just wonder if when they had less to work with, that they had to focus more on like
Because you
making
have to
sure the
lean
story.
more on storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think a very key point is that in every Star Trek, the first season is the weakest.
Yeah.
Like if you go to
That's
Enterprise, the first season's the weakest. If you go to DS9, first season's the weakest. So I think it takes a little bit of time to develop those characters and put them in place.
You got to lay the groundwork. You got to lay the tracks for everything that's going to come in the future to roll on. So that would make sense that it's a little.
Yeah.
And not that I'm calling this weak because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Right.
But this was definitely a setup episode. Oh, there was no question. Everything
Yes.
about this was just setup.
You're right.
And there were cool little sleepers in there. Like, did you get the Maddox reference?
Yes. Yeah, they do mention Maddox, who is I think it's season 2, Measure of a Man.
Right.
Where they take Data to trial and
Look at
This
these
guy
look at
knows-
these nerds,
He
James.
knows the title of the episode
These friggin'
from
nerds.
season 2. When did
Good
season
Lord.
2 come out?
season that would have been 1988.
So he knows what
88, 89.
Yeah.
idiot savant over there.
Idiots.
He can't remember things
No.
24
He
hours
can't hit
later.
the record button on the memory card.
But he remembers this.
Back in 1988, season 2, episode 3, A Story of a Man in Space.
All right, this is the appropriate time to play this drop I've already played.
Stop shaming me!
There you go.
You're not wrong, James. You're 100% correct.
But the important detail of Measure of a Man
Yes.
was it was Data and Android fighting in a courtroom scene to be not property of to be recognized as a living being
Yeah, it's
and not property of Starfleet.
fighting for his
right.
sentience.
Yeah,
Like
and that's
Pinocchio wanted to become a real boy.
Yeah.
that's
That's
obviously
a horrible reference. That is,
I enjoyed it, though. I enjoyed
you
it.
totally just urinated on my.
that's what we do here.
That's what we have James for.
Yep.
Yep.
I will have
That's
to
my
get
name tag right here. Urinator.
I'll have to have my Starfleet uniform cleaned and pressed after that one. Yeah. Pinocchio.
He puts the nader in urinator.
You there? Oh, you burned that for next week. You
I
could
could have
saved
used that. Yeah, I could have
You
used
could
that.
have sat on that urinator.
I would
Well, I'm
have
glad I
forgotten
used
it.
it now because I would have forgot last week.
I would have forgotten it.
Like urinator.
Yeah.
What?
But that's something too, is that you can see that moving forward, this particular series, at least this particular season, is very much going to be about the rights of AI and the androids and stuff like that. But there is a lot of action in this too.
There is. We didn't finish that thought. Bruce Maddox, by the way, The reason we brought up that
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
season 2 episode.
Yeah.
He was
Measure
the
of a Man. Continue.
1980 what was it?
88.
Now he's just like
Same,
nerd
yeah.
flexing.
He was essentially the lawyer on the other side trying to make Data his property. He
Okay.
wanted to then reverse engineer Data so he could build other androids.
Yeah.
So it turns out now 20 years in the future that this guy is the one who actually created these new androids that have come to Picard for help. So if you didn't know any of that,
Right.
you know, but
It
if
was
you
just
did,
the-
you were like, oh my God, they worked Maddox in. That's so cool.
Just mentioned his name. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And but for the record, the only reason I know for a fact it was season 2, I know that
Just watched
Pulaski.
Oh.
Pulaski was a part of that
Right,
episode.
right. Yeah, she was.
And she was the doctor only in season 2.
You know what's funny is that the way the cameras are set up, I just looked at the stream, you guys are looking at each other, but the way the cameras are set up, you guys are looking in opposite directions.
That's true.
I thought you were going to say we were looking lovingly at each other.
No.
The screen.
Yeah.
Like
I
we
just
were
happened to look over while you guys are looking
We're
at each other, and Al is
adoring each
looking
other.
off
Okay,
camera.
so Steve.
Right.
Is this
There-
work?
no,
Yeah,
that's
there you
perfect.
go.
There you
All
go.
right.
Look at each other, damn it.
You're looking great today, Steve.
Thank you.
But that was the other thing I wanted to bring up is there is a lot more action in this than you would have seen in an
Yeah.
older Star Trek show. And I'm sure part of that is knowing the audience, but also trying to make sure that you bring in an audience that may not be, you know, predisposed to watch a Star Trek
Yeah.
show. Like the android in this particular thing does these fantastical special moves, taking out all these assassins
Yeah.
Okay.
that are trying to take down her
It's a
Picard and
combat.
stuff. Yeah, there's some massive combat, and you can see in the previews leading into it, Picard is running in this episode. He's running like a wine farm, a winery.
Yes,
What is that called?
Chateau
a vineyard.
Picard, yeah,
he's
vineyard,
right.
yeah.
He's running a vineyard, and he's got 2 Vulcans that live with him that are.
Romulans.
Are they Romulans? I think
Yes,
they're
yeah.
Vulcan. But anyways, they're going to be part of
You
his
got to
crew.
be on your Star Trek game. If
I
you're talking
guess
Star
so.
Trek with these guys.
They're going to be
It's
part
okay.
of the crew.
Romulans and Vulcans share common lineage.
Ancestral
Ancestry.
DNA.
We are never doing this again. My God.
Oh, wait, here we go. How's that?
There we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Wonder nerd powers activated.
Right. But you can tell that these 2 younger people are going to be more of the Jonathan Frakes. So they're going to be the ones that are doing. You can see one of them welding a sword in one of the previews and stuff like that. So when when somebody's butt's got to be kicked,
These are the
it's not going to
guys.
be Patrick Stewart
Yeah.
kicking somebody's butt.
He's calling the shots.
Speaking of the
Exactly.
Romulans, something else that was pointed out to me in that same podcast is they canonized the the death of Romulus, which happens in the 2009 movie.
Correct.
Remember, Romulus is destroyed, and that causes Nero to go back in time, and eventually that's how he encounters
That was
the
the one I didn't
Kelvin.
see. I've not. I think Nemesis is one of them, and there's another. The last 2 I didn't see.
Well, obviously the J.J. Abrams movies, it's the Kelvin timeline. It's a different timeline by
Yeah.
going back in time. But the destruction of Romulus takes place before the timeline change. So they do address it in Picard, canonizing it, saying, yep, Romulus is gone. And there's like a big evacuation thing that Picard is involved in. And another thing that I noticed about the show is we find out Picard has, since we last saw him in Nemesis, been promoted to Admiral. However...
And retired.
Yep. However, the people close to him still refer to him as Captain, which I thought was interesting. But
Yeah.
he does a television interview, and they refer to him as Admiral. But again, it's almost like he's ashamed of his admiralty, like he's, or something. There's some.
He's ashamed of Starfleet.
He's ashamed of Starfleet. That's
they
true.
asked him why he left Starfleet, and
Yeah.
his answer was because it wasn't Starfleet anymore.
Yeah. So, and we're gonna get much more into that. There was a Mars.
It became Space Force.
It became Space Force with the same exact logo.
Saved money, just had to change the font.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But
And there's going to be plenty of people from previous Star Trek shows. You can see that both Jonathan Frakes' character,
Riker.
Riker, and Deanna Troi
Yep.
are going to be in a later episode. And 7 of 9 from
Yes.
friggin'
Absolutely.
Voyager.
And,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Hugh.
And Hugh from Iborg.
Right.
Season 5. That one I also just recently watched.
But it's going to feel weird when there's episodes that don't have somebody from an older Star Trek show in it.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of that, though.
I'm sure you
I
will.
understand. Well, first of all, it's already been renewed for season 2, which is good. But I understand the Doctor
Wow.
from DS9 is appearing in some form or another.
Bashir? Dr.
Oh, did I say DS9? I'm sorry, I meant Voyager.
Oh, okay.
Just the Doctor.
Oh, yeah, Robert Picardo.
Yes.
Yeah, the emergency hologram.
Dude, Al is just nerd flexing like a mofo this
I know.
episode.
MASH and Star Trek and
Oh my
guitar is what I
gosh.
do when I leave here.
It's like Al's gun show right now.
It is.
Chris Berg is in the chat, and he said the name of this episode should be Al's Audible Boner
Dude, boing!
because he's having a nerdgasm over Star Trek.
Steve just says the title of a Star Trek series, and Al's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. The guy, the doctor, him, yes. Oh.
I'll name the series. You tell me the year. Fistful of datas. Go.
I don't actually know.
Oh, got stumped on the first one.
I'm redeeming
We need
myself
that,
from
like,
that
the whistle,
goddamn Trivial Pursuit that we did.
Oh, yes, please. That's a bad recall right there.
Yeah, it is.
I did want to point out, because I just think it's kind of interesting, one of the things that made Star Trek what it was throughout almost all of the series was it was about a ship, it was about exploration, it was about going to deep space, it was boldly going where no one had gone
Except
before.
for Deep Space Nine, which was a parking lot.
It was a hotel.
It was a hotel.
This one does not appear to be that at all.
Yeah.
It looks like they will go into space.
Oh, there will be some space, but it'll just be traveling. It'll be getting from point A to point B. They're clearly going to be looking for something, searching for someone, something. And I expect, again, based on just the previews and things that we've seen, that most of the combat's going to be hand-to-hand combat. You're not going to see a lot of ship battles.
Right.
Picard, at this point, doesn't even have a ship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm
So-
sure that will come, with subsequent episodes.
So I think you're going to see more spy-type stuff, more ninja-type stuff, more
Yeah.
hand-to-hand stuff.
I want to see Picard go hand to hand, man.
It has to happen eventually, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's gonna feel real weird to see
But I feel like
Patrick
he'll
Stewart
be
beat
like
somebody up.
He'll be a surprise, like there'll be a fight or whatever, and he'll just pull out a gun and
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. There'll be some alien. Then Picard be like, you know what? Smoke you.
Set
Speaking of
Phaser
that-
to shut up.
On the topic of that analogy, I don't know if this is a legit story or not, but I had heard that Harrison Ford ad-libbed shooting that guy.
That scene? Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, really?
because
What a brilliant,
he was
brilliant man.
sick. He was sick, like with the flu or something, and wanted to go home. And they're like, "Well, Harry, we gotta film the scene first." And so the guy does all his little ninja moves, and he was supposed to fight him. And Harrison Ford just ad-libbed pulling out his gun, shooting the guy, and the guy reacted like an improv thing and just died. And they're like, "All right, we're done. You can go home."
That's amazing. I hope that's true.
Yeah,
that is
I-
the most Harrison Ford
Yes,
story I've ever heard.
I don't know for sure if that's true, but I had heard that story, and I love it.
Those
Yeah.
are my favorite like movie type stories when you
Yeah.
find out that like this stuff wasn't in the script. The actor just rolled with it and improvised, and
Yeah.
it worked. And
I feel like there are definitely certain actors that you get with that in mind.
Yeah.
Like here's the script, but here's these points where I'm just gonna let Robert Downey Jr. play because he's gonna give me some gold.
Well, since the Hulk hand is here,
Oh
Yeah.
no.
and we are talking about
Yeah.
improv, I find out.
Oh
that
my
it-
God! Put that down.
Oh, I forgot. We're this way. Don't threaten me.
I don't like it at all.
I was, I saw it in an interview where they had brought in a kid from like a Make-A-Wish type of thing for the filming of Ragnarok during the big fight scene between Thor and
And Hulk.
Hulk.
Right.
And that it was the kid who came up with the line of, "Hey, I know him from
Hey,
work."
that's my guy from
Oh,
work. yeah.
really? I didn't know
Really?
that.
The
That's
kid
awesome.
said that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so using that." Like,
That's
the
awesome,
kid,
dude.
I'm using that line.
For sure.
I know it's a Make-A-Wish thing. That's gonna make that kid's whole life.
Well, there's
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hopefully it's a very long life.
Yes, I
It's
hope
a-
it was
but
an extended
still.
life. I hope it's
It's
still
a
with us.
much
but-
sweeter story than the one I'm about to share. But in Seinfeld, there's an episode where Jerry's dating a girl, and the whole thing is he never got her name. And the joke is she's like, well, rhymes with the part of the female anatomy. So the whole episode, he's trying to think of what her name is. Well, like George comes up with Mulva or something like that. But before at the end, Jerry realizes what it is and says it to her. But before they filmed that scene, the writers came out and was like, hey, just for fun, does anyone want to try and guess the name with the studio audience? And some woman in the audience said, Dolores. And they were like, that's way better than what we wrote. And they changed the script because of the audience member had a better than what they had written. Yeah.
Right.
I hope they got a writer's credit.
Yeah.
Got paid for that. I hope that every time that runs in syndication, I hope they get like 2 cents.
Just really angry.
And they just gave him one Kenny Rogers roast with chickens.
Yep.
They're like, thank you for your contribution.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess to put a pin in Picard, very happy with it.
Cool.
Can't wait for subsequent episodes. And to see some of the other guest stars from TNG.
Yeah.
I told Chuck after I watched it that I do want new story. I do want new characters. But after opening with the Enterprise D and seeing Data and Picard, and then it goes on to this next scene where somebody ends up dying, a new character dies. And I was like, I'm glad he's dead because I want new, but I'm not ready for it yet. I just got Data and Picard in 10 forward on the D.
Right.
And I'm not ready for this yet.
We got Data and Picard on the D.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. Erica's coming in. We're going to talk about the WWE Royal Rumble, which was this past weekend. We'll give you...
Are you going to tell your story, Steve? Can we tease?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, please, stick around.
So,
Steve has a great wrestling-related story. That
I think we should tell him what happened, that he pissed off Vince McMahon. Stick around for that.
Yeah, somebody in this room is pissed off Vince McMahon, and it wasn't me.
Well, you may have.
I may have.
He just doesn't know
But
who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, God damn that fathead face.
Him and his stupid fat face.
Now I can't use this for all my clips for WrestleMania for the rest because you got big fat James head in it.
Pull that Seth Rollins photo off Instagram. It's got that big fat head, fat face in the background.
We're coming back. Nerd Radio.